I'm Emily Kirsch, founder and CEO of Powerhouse and managing partner of Powerhouse Ventures. If we are going to decarbonize equitably, it's going to require intentionality. And today, solutions to decarbonize and electrify our built environment are often inaccessible to underserved communities. But there are utility leaders that are bringing that intentionality to scale electrification, like Patty Poppy, CEO of PG&E. Patty, welcome to the Electrify virtual stage.
Thank you, Emily. So happy to be with you.
Happy to have you. So, I wanted to start by just contextualizing the role of equity in electrification. And so, Patty, what role does equity and electrification play in achieving our climate goals?
Well, I think they go hand in hand. In fact, I'd say over the last 100 years, perhaps they haven't. And some of our most vulnerable citizens live in areas with the greatest density of pollution and don't necessarily have the safest and cleanest energy sources being delivered to them. And so I think it's really important as we move forward that we don't let that happen again. The energy industry is in a major transformation, and this is our opportunity to transform, make our as we decarbonize the economy and utilize electrification as a key enabler to do that. We have to make sure we don't leave anyone behind.
100% agreed. And I know this work is hard. There are all kinds of challenges, but there are also solutions. What are some of the challenges, the structural challenges in enabling equitable access to electric homes in particular?
I think there's two things. I am excited about some of the opportunities, so I look forward to getting to that part. But I'll share some of the challenges, particularly as we transition homes from natural gas to electricity. During that transition time, there's a real risk that the customers who transition first will have the benefits of that electrification and leave others paying for the infrastructure cost of those remaining delivering the assets that deliver natural gas. So, for example, in some of the cities that have established, whether it's new construction, electrification building codes, or in cases where they've banned natural gas, they sometimes leave an exception for home cooking, for example, or because there's a lot of resistance. I think it's the hardest thing for people to imagine switching. And in those cases, that would mean we would still have a natural gas main, we'd still have service lines, we'd still have compressor stations just to fuel those stovetops, if you will. And so it's really important that as we transition, we do it in a very intentional way. And we have a lot of plans at PG&E to really do strategic electrification in lieu of natural gas so it can be a whole scale change. And we can really make sure that people aren't left then carrying a much greater burden for the remaining assets in the system as the transition
Mm-hmm.
occurs.
Makes a ton of sense. And you mentioned the solutions. Tell me more about some of those solutions that PG&E is enabling for your customers.
Well, one of the things that really surprises people when we talk about electrification, and when I think about electrification, I think of electrification of buildings and transportation. And when we look at and we do our forecasts on the household spend on electricity, natural gas, and gasoline, as customers become EV drivers, their actual household energy expense goes down. And so, what excites me about that is that means that we can enable people to actually free up their household wallet to spend on other things, important things, groceries, medicine, other aspects of a household expenditure, in lieu of spending it on that triple stack of energy: gasoline, natural gas, and electricity. So we're pretty excited about that, especially as we talk about the role that electric vehicles will play in strengthening the grid, which I'd be happy to talk about more.
Please do.
One of the things that people ask me all the time about electric vehicles is the grid ready? And will we have enough energy? And I think there's some important local questions to be answered about that, making sure we have the transformer and the circuits prepared for density of electric vehicles. But one of the things people don't realize is that those electric vehicles can serve as both a source of energy as much as a draw on energy. Today, in my service area in Northern and Central California, we have 6,600 megawatts of capacity driving around our roads today. People might not know what 6,600 megawatts is, but it is 3 Diablo Canyon power plants of capacity today, not in the future, today, driving around our roads. And if we can enable those vehicles to provide a power back to the grid on those peak times, I see those vehicles then as a grid resource. So customers who might otherwise not be able to afford an electric vehicle, perhaps we incentivize that electric vehicle because it's really a mini power plant. And when that customer agrees to enable that vehicle to dispatch to the grid 5 days a year, they get access to electric transportation that cleans their air, allows them to have the participation in the electrification movement, lower their household energy expense. I see it as a pathway to equitable, clean energy. And that makes us really excited at PG&E.
One of the best descriptions of EVs that I ever heard was they're just batteries on wheels. So I think that
For
reflects what
sure.
you said.
For sure. And I don't think people realize, I don't think we've really tapped the full potential of EVs in that way. And in fact, we made some important announcements this year with Ford and GM, uh, enabling their bidirectional charging vehicles to feed homes and grids, both as a resilience play when we have to interrupt power to keep people safe during wildfire season, and as this peak summer resource. So the first 5 Ford Lightnings are going to plug into the PG&E grid, and we're pretty excited about that.
Interestingly, too, it's actually the cheapest way to get home storage is through an F-150 or another car that can serve as storage. So it's a fun way to build that in a way that it might not otherwise be possible.
Yeah, an off-lease Chevy Bolt, for example, the General Motors product, they've been on the roads for several years, so now they're coming off lease. They cost about $12,000. That off-lease Chevy Bolt is the equivalent of 6 Tesla Powerwalls.
Exactly.
Six, it can power a home for 3 to 5 days.
Exactly.
That's pretty exciting.
Agreed. So, what you're speaking to is essentially a transformational shift in our energy and mobility systems. And to that point, natural gas at this point and the infrastructure to enable the delivery of gas is everywhere. And so, as more homes and buildings are electrified, how does a utility like PG&E strategically transition without negatively impacting communities that can't afford to be those early movers that you were speaking to earlier?
Yeah, I would say that PG&E in particular is uniquely positioned because we're a dual fuel utility. We both deliver natural gas and electricity, and our service areas overlap almost 100%. That gives us sort of a more agnostic point of view about how people want their energy delivered. I feel grateful that we get to be very much customer obsessed on how customers want energy, we can deliver it. And we've already seen many cases. In fact, we have 84 homes that we have already transitioned from gas to electricity. And we do those in very specific cases. And in fact, there was a case in Monterey where there was a gas project planned. And when we looked at the gas project, which was going to cost about $1.2 million to replace the service in the main to one home, we realized that if we just electrified that home, it would cost dramatically less. So we saved $1 million by not replacing the main and the service and instead electrifying that home. And so more and more, we have an integrated energy system as a strategy for PG&E, not a gas strategy, not an electric strategy, but an energy system strategy. And we're uniquely positioned then to really find the best, cleanest, most reliable, most resilient, lowest cost solution for customers and not have to feel compelled to hang on and protect our business model.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of underserved communities, you're saying in many cases, at least for new build, it's actually cheaper to just not build the gas lines in the first place.
Absolutely. In fact, my husband was involved in a project. It was a residential project, multi-family living. And it was a really interesting project because at first glance, the developer and the builder knew that the lowest cost way to build the project was electric only. They didn't have to invest in the gas infrastructure. So that was good. But at first, they might not have been incentivized properly to make it the most efficient electric build. And so when we, the utility, started working with this project team, we helped them realize that insulation was really important, that smart thermostats were important. We convinced them to put solar on the roof. So this project realized that it was a selling feature then for future residents, that they would have a better opportunity to have full utilization of these rental units because they were green, energy efficient, but that was not their first thought.
It's great to see your leadership at PG&E and how seriously you're taking this transition, ensuring that it is an equitable one as we move to decarbonized and electrified systems, including our built environment. So it's great to hear about everything that you're doing. Before we close, I do have to ask, Patty, if you were going to be an animal, what animal would you be and why?
Oh, well, I long ago learned I'm very much like a beaver, a busy beaver. I work hard, I care a lot, I have a lot of energy, and want to make sure that we build things that last and build things that matter. And I definitely get to do that with my coworkers at PG&E. We've taken a stand that we are delivering for our hometowns, serving our planet, and leading with love. And I can't think of a better way to do that than by participating and helping be a critical element of the decarbonization of our economy and leaving and delivering safe and reliable and affordable energy for all of our customers.
So well said. I am so happy to hear that the leader of a utility as big as PG&E is leading with love, and that's part of something that you've built into your team culture. I think we need more of that. So I'm so happy that you shared that, and I'm really grateful for your leadership. And thanks for joining me on the Electrify stage.
Thanks so much for having me. I was so happy to be with everyone today. Hope you have a great conference.